When I crossed over, I was carrying a black pot on my head. It's not in metaphor. There was a big, blackened iron pot, carried by 2 imperial kitchen eunuchs, and dropped it with a clang beside my feet. Henxiang, you used spoiled meat privately, which nearly caused the imperial concubine's health to be damaged. Why don't you kneel down and confess? The speaker was a fat eunuch, holding a whisk in his hand, with his chin higher than the chimney of the kitchen. I blinked my eyes. A lot of memories like a pot of boiling oil, poured into my mind like a pot of boiling oil. Sen Hung-gyang, the top chef in the modern culinary world. Last night, I finished the competition, because the judges insisted that undercooked beef is called retaining the original flavor. I was so angry that I posted a scathing article. While cursing, my phone hit my face. When I opened my eyes, I was in the imperial kitchen. A young cook who had just entered the palace for 3 days. The original owner's name is also Henxiang, only one less than me. Maybe fate worried that the ancients couldn't bear the double fragrance. Today, Liu Consort took a sip of deer tendon soup and suffered abdominal pain. Eunuch Cao Yishao wanted to save himself, privately accepted bribes from merchants, and bought spoiled venison, and blamed the original owner. The original owner was frightened and couldn't breathe, so I came. How to say? When someone dies, they will see the bridge of hell. I saw a pot of stinky soup first. My professional disease has hurt me deeply. Cao Yishao saw me not kneeling. His face trembled twice. What are you still doing? Drag him out and beat him 20 times. And kicked out. I looked down at myself. I wasn't drugged. I wasn't beaten. My hands and feet were intact. There was a kitchen knife next to me. Good. God has provided all the tools I need. I looked up and smiled slightly. Eunuch Cao, you said this venison was just bought by me. Naturally, a strong smell of rotten scallions rushed to my head. I almost took a step back. This is the ability I got from time travel. If someone lies about food, I can smell the bad smell. Good ability. It's just a bit taxing on the nose. In that case, I walked to the case. I picked up a piece of deer tendon in the soup with chopsticks. The deer tendons were marinated with salt, rice wine, and Angelica de Hurica. It has been marinated for at least 7 days. The edges are gray, and the tendons are sticky. Yesterday, it was soaked in ginger water again. Cao Yishao's eyes changed. You're lying. This batch of venison was not delivered to the imperial kitchen today, but it was delivered from Zhejiamin 7 days ago, and were packed in barrels painted with tung oil. Because the barrel leaked, the delivery man used a blue cloth to block the gap. The room was quiet instantly. A little eunuch standing in the corner turned pale and knelt down. Grand Chef, please forgive me. The venison was indeed delivered 7 days ago. You told me to hide it in the private warehouse, saying to take it out when the concubine ordered it. Cao Yishao shouted angrily. Pepper, how dare you frame us? It turns out that the little eunuch is called Hu Jiao. The name of the imperial kitchen is really casual. Fortunately, my name is Zuran. Otherwise, this place doesn't look like a palace, like a seasoning rack. Hu Jiao trembled and took out a list from his arms. I dare not. The receipt for entering and leaving the private treasury is still there. Cao Yishao's face turned green. I gave a thumbs up in my heart. Well, the villain started in a quarter of an hour, with witnesses and evidence. So sensible. He should be awarded a big red flower for the new year. Just then, a charming but cold voice came from outside the door. It's just a deer meat. Why make such a scene? Everyone knelt down. I looked up and saw a woman in gorgeous clothes, surrounded by palace maids. She had a beautiful face, with a golden flower on her forehead. She must be Consort Liu. She glanced at Cao Yishao, and then looked at me. Cao Yanshao was wrong. I will handle it myself. But you were disrespectful in front of the emperor, and contradicted the superior. And you are not suitable to stay in the palace. It's a good move to hit both with 50 boards. Cao Yishao is greedy and harmful. But he was wrong. I proved myself on the spot. But I was disrespectful in front of the emperor. This is a very fair and unique way. It's like a scale. one side with a stone, and the other side is conscience. And then secretly threw away the conscience. I didn't kneel and beg for mercy. I turned around and picked up the iron pot, and took my kitchen knife from the shore. Okay. Concubine Liu seemed not to expect me to agree so quickly. You don't defend yourself. The palace has strict rules. If the empress says I'm not suitable, I had to leave. I smiled very well. But this pot was brought by me when I entered the palace, and the kitchen knife as well. As for the innocence that Cao Gonggong owes me, I'll record it today, and I'll collect the interest later. Cao Yishao shouted angrily, "You're presumptuous." I turned to him. Eunuch Cao, isn't it good to live? Why do you have to provoke a person with a kitchen knife? His voice stopped abruptly. Of course, I am a law-abiding citizen. The kitchen knife is used to cut meat, not people. But some people don't understand reason. It's good to let him think more. To avoid my brain rusting from disuse, I walked out of the imperial kitchen with a pot. When I left the palace, the guards checked me 3 times. One of them asked suspiciously, "What are you doing with a pot?" "Eat." "Why do you bring a kitchen knife?" "To cut vegetables." "Where are you going?" I stood at the palace gate, and looked at the long street outside, and took a deep breath of the free air. "Right here." The guard's face changed abruptly, and pulled out a long knife. "You're going to set fire at the palace gate." I was silent for a moment. Sometimes the misunderstanding between people are harder to cut than tendons and beef tendon. I set up a stall at the palace gate. "No." The guard thought for a long time. The great sage law seems to only say no trespassing, and no noise. But it doesn't say you can't sell food 30 feet away. He hesitated to put away his sword. "What are you selling?" I weighed the half string of copper coins in my hand, and see what I can buy. Half an hour later, I borrowed an old wooden table, a small clay stove. I bought 3 caddies of pork with skin, 2 caddies of rice, a few eggs and some spices. That's when Kin appeared. She passed by with a vegetable basket, and saw me stir sugar color on the street, and stopped to watch for a long time. "Girl, how much is your meat?" "It's not cooked." "Then I'll wait at least an hour. The old lady has nothing to do today." She sat down nearby. She sat down. I started to deal with streaky pork. Put it in cold water. Add scallions and ginger to remove fishy smell. Skim off the foam. Cut into finger joint-sized pieces. Stir-fry rock sugar until it turns red. Fry the meat in the pot. Coat with a shiny sugar color. Add star anise, cinnamon, bay leaves, and a little tangerine peel. What if there are no modern seasonings? The real good taste depends on the understanding of ingredients, not by pouring half a bottle of sauce into the pot. A sauce of unknown origin. The aroma of the meat wafted out. At first, it was just the palace guards looking over. Later, the passers-by slowed down their steps. Later, the sugar seller pushed his cart over. The fortune teller sat next to Kin with a banner. Even the horses tied to the roadside stretched their necks. With their necks stretched out, and faces written with, "Kin ma'am" swallowed her saliva. "How long?" "Half an hour." She sighed. "Why is life so long?" I fully understand. Waiting for half an hour for braised meat is indeed more valuable and difficult than waiting. More valuable than waiting for a fickle man's repentance. And more unbearable. After the meat was stewed until tender, I lifted the lid. The rich aroma of meat rushed out instantly. The whole street was quiet. Then someone shouted, "Lady, give me a bowl." And the crowd gathered around me. I filled a bowl with steaming white rice. I ladled a spoonful of shiny and tender braised meat, and a half-soaked egg. Kin Momo got the first bowl. He took a bite of rice, and his eyes widened immediately. The fat melts in the mouth. The lean meat was tender and not dry. The juice penetrated into every grain of rice. It's salty and sweet. The tangerine peel also suppressed the greasiness just right. He took bite after bite, and didn't even have time to talk. Tang Ren asked, "Is it delicious?" Kin Mammy held the bowl tightly. "If it's not good, don't buy it," and quickly took another big bite. Everyone laughed. "It's good. This nanny is born to be a publicity material. But her way of promotion is a bit reverse." Soon, all 3 caddies of meat were sold out. Those who didn't get it surrounded me and wouldn't leave. Will you come tomorrow? Is there soup? Can I pay a deposit first? I was about to answer. I suddenly felt a gaze fall on me. A man in black stood outside the crowd with his hands behind his back. He was tall and straight, with stern eyebrows and eyes. His aura was steadier than the stone lions at the palace gate. But his gaze went beyond the crowd, stayed firmly on my empty pot. I recognized him at once. Earlier outside the imperial kitchen, he stood at the end of the corridor, witnessed my confrontation with Cao Yishao. He was expressionless at that time. I thought he was a handsome stone statue newly placed in the palace. The man walked to the stall. Any more? I showed him the empty pot. No more. He was silent for a moment. Wait, I can pay more. Sir, first come, first served. Even if you pay more, you can't make the food. The food that has already gone into someone's stomach. The man in black looked at the bowl in Qin's hand. Qin turned around immediately and protected the last bite of rice with her back. That posture, not to mention a strange man. Even if the emperor himself came, she would probably shout out, "Your Majesty, please respect yourself." The man was silent again. I suddenly felt a little sorry for him. He is so handsome, but he couldn't even get a hot meal. I scraped the last spoonful of marinade from the bottom, half a bowl of leftover rice, and added a marinated egg. Only this left. He took the bowl and took a bite. His originally cold eyes slightly brightened. How? I asked. He swallowed slowly. It's okay. I looked down at the bowl that he had eaten cleanly, and there was not a single grain left. You're so stubborn. If it were used to build the northern wall, the barbarian army would withdraw in tears tonight. The man put down a silver ingot. I'll come back tomorrow. I weighed the silver and smiled with his eyes curved. May I know your name? Pei Gongzi. Please come early tomorrow. He turned around and walked a few steps, and then looked back at my pot. His gaze was restrained, but I understood. Not me, but the pot. I couldn't help but sigh. Men are really unreliable. Only my craftsmanship can make him look back again and again. However, I didn't know that. That night, the guards of Duan Palace received the first strange order from their master. Go to the palace gate to queue up for food before dawn. The next day before dawn, when I pushed my new wooden cart to the palace gate, there was already a person standing in front of the stall. It was the mysterious Dr. Pei from yesterday, and two numb-looking attendants behind him. I looked up at the sky. The morning star was still there. Ji Dongmo wondered whether to call him. Dr. Pei, are you just waking up? Or haven't slept at all? Passing by, he answered very calmly. I glanced at the empty street, and then looked at the two sleepily behind him, and the servant who was obviously still in bed. What a passing by. If you didn't come here from the palace, I'd eat the lid. I didn't expose the dignity of adults. I just asked them to help me move the table. Today, besides braised pork rice, I also prepared to make soup dumplings. I earned a lot of money yesterday. I rented a small courtyard nearby. I prepared the broth in advance, which cools to form a jelly. Then mix it with pork filling. The dough should be thin and tightly sealed. The steamed buns are white, tender and small. When shaking slightly, the soup inside will tremble. Pei Gongzi sat in front of the stall, staring at the steamer. I suspect he is not sitting upright, but tied his soul to the lid of the steamer. The first cage was out of the steamer. I picked 4 and put them in a small dish, with shredded ginger and vinegar. I bit a small hole first. Suck out the soup before eating. Pei Gongzi glanced at me. I know. I raised my eyebrows. Okay. Some people have never eaten soup dumplings, but they have eaten face. He picked up one and took a half bite. The next moment, his whole person froze. The hot soup was obviously in his mouth and held a grand fireworks show. His eyes instantly turned red, and his ears turned slightly red, but he didn't spit it out. He swallowed the soup dumpling expressionlessly. The attendant gasped in surprise. I was in awe. As expected of the ancients, to protect their dignity, he could even give up his mouth. Is it hot? I asked knowingly. No. Pei Gongzi is really a man of iron teeth and copper teeth. I handed him a thin bamboo tube. Use this to drink next time. Don't let the soup dumpling hurt your dignity again. He took the reed, silently thinking whether to silence me. After a moment, he asked if there was more. Yes. The second one. He learned his lesson. He bit a small hole, and then slowly sucked the soup. The delicious meat juice mixed with jelly melts. The soup gushed into his mouth. The skin is flexible, and the meat is fresh. A little ginger just enhances the flavor. Paegongzi's expression remained calm, but he didn't stop eating. The 4 steamed buns quickly disappeared. Not bad, he commented again. I looked at the empty plate. I understand. In this young man's dictionary, not bad probably means 10 more baskets. The sky was getting brighter. Yesterday's customers arrived one after another. Within half an hour, a long queue formed in front of the stall. Kin Mammy claimed herself as the booth manager and shouted to maintain order. One person can only have 2 bowls. No cutting in line. The man in green hat. Don't push forward. A scholar's face turned red. Mammy, this is called Rujin. It's called Rujin. If you keep pushing, there will be only rags left. The scholar immediately became obedient, busy until the sun rose. A group of eunuchs in the imperial kitchen walked over. The guard held a plate of meat, shouting in a high-pitched voice. Cao Changshan heard that someone outside the palace, to swagger and deceive, and ordered me to bring a real imperial delicacy, to show the people. People were talking about it. The news that I was kicked out of the palace yesterday. Many people know that I have a feud with Cao Yishao. The little eunuch put the plate on the table. The meat inside was cut extremely thin, dyed bright red, and sprinkled with gold foil on the surface, which looked very luxurious. It smells good too, but the spices were too heavy, overwhelming the taste of the meat itself. To put it bluntly, it's like a plain-looking girl is like putting 2 caddies of rouge on her face. But she didn't become beautiful. But all the mosquitoes were scared away. The little eunuch said proudly. Cao Changshan said that your street food, only for porters to fill their stomachs, and are not fit for the high table. Everyone was quiet. Before I could speak, Mammy Kin stood up straight. What's wrong with the porters? Did the porters eat your rice? Without porters, you wouldn't even have pot ash to eat. The little eunuch shrank in fright. I patted Kin Mammy's hand. Mammy, don't worry. I turned to the little eunuch. I smiled very kindly. Since Cao Changshan is so confident in his cooking skills, let's have a competition. How to compare? I asked someone to bring 10 clean cloth towels and 10 portions of braised meat. 10 people were randomly selected to taste blindfolded. The one with more votes wins. The little eunuch was stunned. He probably didn't expect me to agree so readily. Let's compete. 10 commoners were selected, including a scholar, a porter, a flower girl, a patrolman, and even an old imperial censor who had just left court. Everyone was blindfolded. They ate the pre-made meat first. The first person chewed twice. Too salty. The second person frowned, with a powdery smell, and couldn't tell what kind of meat it was. The old imperial historian was the most straightforward. I have bad teeth and can't chew it. It's my braised meat. The meat was stewed until tender. Melt in the mouth. The sauce was rich but not too salty, with a bite of hot rice. It's so delicious that I can't stop eating. When 10 people took off their towels, my bowl was empty. Cao Yishao's steamed meat was only missing a few slices. The result was obvious. 10 votes to 0. The little eunuch's face turned pale, and the onlookers burst into laughter. Someone shouted, Cao Hongsha's imperial meat is not as good as footman's meal. Another person replied, but you can't say that. The footman's meal is much tastier. Everyone laughed even louder. I felt very comfortable. This is my favorite way to slap in the face. Without arguing or cursing, just put the dish on the table, and let the other person stand on the pillar of shame. The little eunuch walked away with the meat in shame. I looked at his back. I shouted to tell Cao Changshan, if you want to compete in cooking, come yourself. He always sends some small dishes out, making his main dish look very weak. There was another burst of laughter around. Paigongzi was sitting nearby. His lips seemed to move slightly. I looked at him. You smiled. No. Oh, really? I don't believe. He picked up the tea, covering his mouth. I was about to continue making fun of him. Suddenly someone squeezed to the stall. The man was wearing the clothes of a Zhu Shanlu servant, followed by several yamen. A middle-aged man with a big belly. A middle-aged man with a pot belly walked slowly. Who is Hank Xiang? I raised my hand. I'm Hunkin. Today's braised pork rice is 8 wen. And 10 wen for a cage of soup dumplings. Look at your waistline. I suggest you buy 2 portions. The crowd burst into laughter. The man's face darkened. I am the owner of Zuishan restaurant, Hifugui. Someone reported you for blocking the road and blocking passage. According to Fang's rules, your stall will be sealed today. The yamen stepped forward to move my pot. I held down the lid. Shopkeeper I just set up my stall yesterday, but you come to seal it today. The news spread faster than the smell of meat. Hifugui sneered. Rules are rules. A stench of rotten onions wafted from him. I squinted my eyes. You're lying. And the smell was strong. I looked behind him. A Zuishanlu employee was pushing a covered trolley, and the wheels left a dark red watermark. I took a light sniff of the smell. Old mutton, red koji, deer blood, and a little clove to cover the rotten smell. Interesting. Come to seal my stall. But he was pushing a cart of fake meat. This is not looking for trouble, but afraid that my hand would hurt when I slap him. He took his face off and sent it to me. I opened the lid and laughed. I can close my stall. Hifugui proudly raised his chin. I pointed to the cart. But before sealing, Hifugui must explain to everyone the venison that Zuishanlu is preparing for VIPs today. Why does it have the bones of a sheep? Hifugui's smile froze on his face. Hifugui followed my hand to look at the cart. His eyelids jumped sharply. What nonsense are you talking about? That's the top quality deer meat. High quality venison bought at a high price. The smell of rotten onions was stronger. I couldn't help holding my breath. If he said more, I'm afraid the whole street would have to pay. His lies were marinated in the smell. Top quality deer meat. I walked to the cart. The guy from Zigxianlu immediately spread his arms to stop me. This is our restaurant's goods. Don't touch it. I stopped and I turned around and asked the onlookers, has anyone here tried the braised deer meat at Zigxianlu? Many people raised their hands. A merchant said, the deer meat in Zigxianlu is a signature dish, which costs 2 taels of silver. How does it taste? The merchant frowned and recalled, the meat is a bit tough and a bit gamey, but the shopkeeper said that wild deer is like this. I nodded. Wild deer indeed has a wild taste, but it doesn't have a long tail. The crowd was stunned. I suddenly kicked under the cart. A short tailbone hidden under the cloth rolled out. The butcher selling mutton recognized it at a glance. It's the old lamb tailbone. The crowd was in an uproar. Hifugui's face changed greatly. It's just a bone that was mixed in. What does it mean? It means your deer has a lot of ideas. Maybe it secretly recognized a sheep as its godfather. There was a burst of laughter around. I lifted the cloth. There was a large bucket of crimson meat on the cart. The surface color is bright, but there was black blood seeping through. Hifugui wanted to stop, but was stopped by Mammy Kin and several ants. Mammy Kin crossed her arms. Shopkeeper don't worry. Let everyone see the way your sheep's tail grows. The ants stood there, and their momentum was even stronger than the patrol. Hifugui didn't dare to force his way through. I picked up a piece of meat and put it in water to rinse slightly. The red quickly faded away, revealing the dark meat color underneath. Dye it with red yeast and deer blood, and clove to suppress the old mutton smell. The meat has been refrigerated for at least 5 days. The edges have started to rot. I broke another bone apart. Deer bones are slender, and sheep bones are short and thick. If the shopkeeper insists that it is deer meat, why not ask the yamen to call all the butchers in the city? The yamen looked at each other. The leading yamen's face was very ugly. Hifugui asked them to seal a small stall. Not to mention that Zuishanlu still hides this thing. If the people think the government is colluding with Xuexian Tower, they would be punished when they go back. The yamen asked he coldly. Where did this batch of meat come from? Hifugui was sweating profusely. Yes, it was the guys who bought it. It has nothing to do with me. A servant immediately knelt down. Shopkeeper, you asked us to dye the old mutton, and said that the Liu consort's family banquet, and the guests have always been served with this meat. Everyone was shocked again. Hifugui raised his foot to kick him. You bastard. You're talking nonsense. I hooked the small stool next to me with my foot. Hifugui didn't notice, and stepped on it, causing him to fall forward. Thump. His face just plunged into the bucket of fake venison. The red water splashed all over his face. The scene was quiet for a moment. Then the laughter almost cracked the palace wall. Hifugui struggled to lift his head, with a piece of mutton hanging on his head, like a pig head just taken out of the brine. I covered my chest. Shopkeeper, your love for your own dishes is admirable, but you don't have to put your whole face in it. He was shaking with anger. You tripped me. Where's the evidence? I raised my innocent hands. Everyone saw it. I was 3 steps away from you. Could it be that your deer not only have sheep tails, and kick people after death? The people laughed so hard that they couldn't straighten up. The yamen brought by Hifugui also blushed with shame. Just then, an orange shadow jumped out of the crowd. A fat orange cat jumped onto the cart, and ran away with the wooden sign hanging from the yamen's waist. The yamen was shocked. My waist tag, and chased after it. The orange cat deftly crawled under the table. The yamen missed it. He couldn't stop, and plunged headfirst into the bucket of swill. With a splash, and half a bucket of swill poured over his head. The scene was spectacular for a moment. I stared at the orange cat. Orange cat with my waist badge in its mouth, too, was staring at me. It was staring at the meatballs on my chopping board. The man and the cat looked at each other for a moment. I picked up a fishball without salt. Give it back. The orange cat tilted its head. Exchange. Of course, Tuo didn't understand, but it could smell it. I threw the fishball into the air. The orange cat let go of its waist tag, jumped up and caught the fishball. After landing, it didn't look back and got under my stall, and curled up. Good. A fishball for a cat. It's not a bad deal, but it's a bit sudden. After the incident, the patrolmen immediately sealed the fake meat, and took Hifugui back for questioning. He glared at me viciously before leaving. You wait, Hangxiang. Sui Shan Lu won't let you go. I waved my hand. Shopkeeper, take care. Remember to bring the mutton on your head, in case you get hungry on the way. To eat. The crowd laughed again. Hifugui almost couldn't breathe. When the crowd dispersed, Pei Gongzi came out from the side. Today, he didn't wear black clothes, but a long green robe, with an inconspicuous jade pendant hanging from his waist. I looked at him. You've been humming just now, and didn't help. You need it. I thought about it. I really don't need it. Hifugui was like a fish that jumped on the chopping board voluntarily. I'm only responsible for flipping it, to prevent one side from burning. Pei took out a token, and handed it to the guard. After the officer saw the token, his face turned white, and immediately knelt down. Subordinate greets Your Highness Duan. Everyone around who hadn't gone far was quiet. I turned my head slowly, looked at the handsome face beside me. Prince Duan, Pei Yanzi, the Emperor's most trusted younger brother. He is in charge of urban patrol and imperial merchant supervision. I remembered the bowl of rice scraping the bottom yesterday, and the reed pipe today. My mood was a bit complicated. Who would have thought? The first one I met after I came to ancient times. The first regular customer turned out to be a prince. And a prince who was burned by a soup dumpling. Pei Yanzi looked at the yamen. Handle it according to the law. If anyone covers up, he will be punished together. Yes. The yamen respectfully retired. I looked at him with my arms crossed. The prince hides his identity to eat at my stall. Are you afraid of my price increase? I'm just eating. Why did he reveal his identity now? The matter has involved imperial merchants and palace purchases. It's no longer just a dispute over your stall. He answered calmly. I nodded. This man is measured. I can slap myself in the face. He didn't jump out to take credit. When the government needs to end it, he only showed his token, compared to those men who suddenly appear out of nowhere and say, woman, who suddenly appears and says, woman, you owe me again. Pei Yanzi looked under my stall. That cat is yours. The orange cat was licking its paws with the fishball. I just bought it. How much? 1 fishball. Pei Yanzi was silent. Sword name. General Ku. The orange cat heard the sound. It slowly crawled out, climbed up along Pei Yanzi's lapel. Finally, it squatted on his shoulder. Its 4 dusty paws, on the clean robe of His Highness Duanwang, left a few clear plum blossom prints on his robe. The guards all bowed their heads. I suspect they are not respectful, but afraid of laughing out loud. Pei Yanzi glanced at General Zhu. General Zhu also looked at him. A moment later, the pig swept his face with its tail. I finally couldn't hold back. And I couldn't hold it anymore. Pei Yanzi didn't get angry. He just reached out and picked up the cat. He asked me, do you still sell your food? I'll take all the leftovers today. Many people in the prince's mansion rewarded the guards. The faces of the guards behind him froze at the same time. I keenly sensed that this may not be a reward, but a gag. But money is innocent. I took the money and packed the remaining braised meat for him. That night, I returned to the rented courtyard. I found the window had been pried open. The silver on the table was not lost, and the pot was still there. Only the paper with the recipe. The braised meat recipe was missing. I checked for a moment. I suddenly laughed. The one that was stolen was the one fake recipe on the table. It lacked 3 key steps. It seems that Zui Shanlu hasn't given up. That's good. I was worried that there would be no fun tomorrow. Now it seems that, even though he is in the yamen, still arranged for his public execution, he is so dedicated. I'm almost moved. 3 days later, He Fugui was released. The evidence of fake meat is conclusive, but Zui Shanlu pushed 2 purchasing clerks to take the blame. He Fugui was only fined silver, without imprisonment. The first thing he did after coming out, he hung a big sign at the entrance of Zuixian building. Sen's secret braised meat, with authentic imperial flavor. When I heard the news, I was washing General Zhu's face. Tu ate the stovish yesterday, whose face was as black as a miner. Hu Zhao sneaked out of the palace to inform me. While gasping for breath, she said, Zen, Zuishan Tower sells not only braised meat, and said that the recipe in your hand was originally from the He family, and you stole it from the palace. I held Zhu General's head with a wet cloth. Cao Yishao said the same. Cao Changshan said that the ancestor of the He family saved a royal chef. The recipe has been passed down for 8 generations. I calculated, if Hu Ruo knew that after her death could be made into such a long family tree, she would be satisfied. Hu Zhao stomped her feet in a hurry. Why aren't you worried? Don't worry. I'll clean General Zhu's beard. I'll make them more complete later. Zuishan building is crowded today. He Fugui stood at the door. He changed into a brand new brocade robe. With a rich smile on his face, a large pot was placed on the street. Black and red pieces of meat were constantly rolling. The aroma is so strong that I stand at the street corner. I wanted to hold a funeral for my nose. When He Fugui saw me coming, he immediately raised his voice. Miss Zen is here. Since you said I stole your recipe from Zuixian Tower, today we will compete in public. Let's see who makes the authentic braised pork. I looked at her in surprise. Shopkeeper, he actually invited me to compete. Yes, you are brave. He Fugui smiled proudly. He probably didn't understand. I mean that, knowing that there is a trap ahead, which indeed requires extraordinary courage. The written test was judged by several well-respected diners to judge. Although Cao Yishao couldn't leave the palace, he sent someone to send a letter to prove the origin of the He family's recipe is orthodox. After reading the letter, He Fugui looked at me. What else do you have to say? I immediately applauded. The secret recipe of the He family has been passed down. Cao Changshan personally testified. It's really amazing. Everyone was stunned. Hifugui was also a little surprised. I walked to his pot and took a deep breath. The meat in this pot has a strong aroma and dark in color. It must have used a lot of spices to enhance flavor. To enhance the flavor, shopkeeper he can stew pork into minced meat. This kind of skill. I'm ashamed of myself. Someone in the crowd laughed. Hifugui's face darkened. Stop talking nonsense. If you have the ability, start. I nodded. Okay. My ingredients are very simple. Pork belly, eggs, scallions, ginger, star anise, cinnamon, tangerine peel, rock sugar, and some common seasonings. Hifugui watched from the side, with contempt in his eyes. The recipe he stole clearly stated that add water after all spices are put into pot. But he didn't know that the meat should be blanched first, and sugar color should be stir-fried separately. Spices should be added in the right order. Finally, open the lid to reduce the sauce. Cooking is not throwing ingredients into a pot and then kowtow to the kitchen god and hope it becomes delicious by itself. I cut the meat into uniform cubes. The knife fell like rain. Only the neat tapping sound on the chopping board. The surroundings gradually quieted down. When a master chef starts cooking, even before the fire is lit, even laymen can tell the difference. Blanch the meat and wash it. Fry the sugar color, and then stir-fry them in the pot. Each piece of meat is wrapped in a shiny juju bread. Put the spices in, and hot water over the meat. Turn the heat down. An hour later, I lifted the lid. The real meat aroma mixed with soy sauce, and a faint aroma of tangerine peel spread out. Those who originally gathered around Hifugui's pot all turned their attention to me. Even the guests on the second floor of Zuishan building, stretching their necks to look down. Hifugui was sweating on his forehead. Fragrance is useless, but it depends on the taste. I smiled and said, "You're right." The judges tasted his braised meat first. The first old man took a bite. His eyebrows immediately frowned. The meat was dry and bitter. The sugar color was overcooked. The spices were not wrapped in gauze, and the scraps stuck everywhere. The second judge barely swallowed it. "Shopkeeper why does your meat have a burnt smell?" Hifugui forced a smile. "This is the ancestral secret spice." Suddenly, a few crows cried in the sky. 3 crows landed on the eaves, and looked down at his pot, and flew away with flapping wings. The crowd was silent for a moment, and then burst into laughter. Even crows dislike it. The secret recipe of the He family can drive away birds. Hifugui's face turned black as dark as the meat in the pot. "It's my braised pork's turn." The judge picked up a piece, and gently pressed with chopsticks, and the meat trembled and separated. The fat is crystal clear, melting in the mouth. The lean meat is soaked in the soup, soft and delicious. With a bite of rice, the rich meat juice completely penetrated the rice, but not too greasy or bitter. The judges didn't say a word. "Just eat," Hifugui hurriedly asked. "How does it taste?" The old man raised his empty bowl for another bowl. The result was no suspense. I won, and I won very cruelly. After eating my braised meat, someone out of curiosity took a bite of Hifugui's. Then the man's expression twisted, and spit it into the flower pot on the street. Hifugui angrily said, "You deliberately put the fake recipe in the house." I immediately opened my eyes wide. How did he know that? The fake recipe was in the house. The surroundings were silent. Hifugui's face turned white. I continued to ask, "Didn't you just say that the formula was from the He family for 8 generations? How could it be taken from my house now?" He opened his mouth, and couldn't speak for a long time. The biggest advantage of self-destructing truck is that it doesn't need to be pushed. As long as he is given a wide enough road, he can hit the ancestral grave all the way. I took out a piece of paper from my sleeve. I reported the loss to the authorities on the day it was lost. The paper also had the fingerprints of the Zuishanlu staff. "Shopkeeper do you want to go to the yamen to explain? Theft, spreading rumors, and impersonating ancestral. 3 crimes combined." Hifugui's legs went weak, and sat on the ground directly. The crowd booed. Someone poured a spoonful of black braised pork on his feet. Shopkeeper he. For 8 generations. Eat more yourself. He Fugui fled to the restaurant in a sorry state. He ran too fast. And one of his shoes fell off. I looked at his limping back. I felt very happy. My happiness is indeed built on the pain of my enemies. But I can't be blamed for this. It's not my fault that they all voluntarily delivered pain. And they were afraid I wouldn't accept it. After the competition, Pei Yanzi walked up to me. The stall is too small. The prince dislikes it. Too many customers. You can only make a limited amount every day. I'm also looking for a shop. He pointed to the opposite of Xuexian building. There is a 3-story restaurant. The location is excellent. But the doors and windows are closed. It's already bought. I was stunned. You bought it? Yes. For me. Partnership. He took out a deed. He will invest in the restaurant. I will contribute my cooking skills and management skills. Each takes half. Accounts are open. And major decisions are discussed together. I read it carefully 3 times. There are no unfair terms. No indentured servant contract. Nor is there a clause that women cannot interfere. This prince is not only good looking, but also has a normal brain. It's rare. Why did you find me to partner? Pei Yanzi glanced at the people. The people queuing up to pack the braised meat. Because you can make money. That's all. And you cook well. Sure enough. Men's romantic words are all false. The meat in the pot is the real thing. I quickly pressed my handprint. What's the name of the restaurant? Pei Yanzi looked at me. Hengxiang. I thought for a moment. Hengxiang Restaurant. Hengxiang cooks. Everyone loves it. Simple and direct. It also fits the final destination of all beings. I just signed the contract. A palace sedan stopped at the street corner. A palace maid came with several eunuchs and placed a golden palace card in front of me. The empress has an order to summon Hengxiang to the palace. She held her chin high. With a haughty tone, the empress is willing to let go of the past to serve in Xuexian Tower. This is a blessing you have earned over many lifetimes. Why don't you kneel down and thank her? I looked down at the work card, and then looked at the maid. Concubine Liu found that she couldn't suppress me, and is ready to incorporate me. Too bad. My knees only bend when picking up money, and the little blessing he brought is not as valuable as my braised pork sauce. The maid saw that I didn't kneel. Her face immediately sank. Hengxiang, Madam is willing to give you a chance. Is a great grace. I picked up the work badge and looked at it. It's golden, and quite heavy. If melted, I could make a pair of chopsticks. Of course, I just thought about it. Melted badge might cost my life. My new restaurant hasn't opened yet. I don't need to change my life so urgently. What does the Empress want me to do? Xueshan restaurant recently lacks a chef. After you join the restaurant, all dishes and recipes belong to Xuexian Tower. You can get 10 taels of silver per month. After he said that, he showed a look of gratitude. I turned to Hu Zhao and asked, how much we earned yesterday? Hu Zhao immediately opened the ledger. Miss, after deducting ingredients and wages, net profit is 178 taels. I nodded and looked at the maid again. I earn nearly 200 taels a day. The Empress gives me 10 taels a month, and she takes all the recipes. The maid said, serving the Empress is priceless, is not something that can be measured by silver. No, she looked proud. I continued, after all, this kind of loss, normal people can't measure it with silver. The onlookers couldn't help laughing. The maid was so angry that her face turned blue. How dare you refuse the concubine? I took the other side of the ledger from Hu Zhao. Not that I dare not. But the Liu family doesn't seem to have the qualification. What do you mean? Xuexian restaurant owes 120 taels to Chengnan meat shop, 86 taels from rice shop, 43 taels from the vegetable farmers. 3 months ago, they used the name of palace purchases, forced to collect contributions from 12 merchants. I turned a page. Shopkeeper he was sentenced to pay money yesterday. The money has not been delivered yet. Today, they want to buy me for 10 taels a month. I looked up and sincerely advised. Please tell her, if you want to do business, pay off your debts first. It's not terrible to be poor. It's easy to be laughed at if you pretend to be rich. How dare you? The maid raised her hand to grab the ledger. Before her hand touched the paper, Pei Yanzi had already taken a step forward. He didn't draw his sword, nor raised his voice. He just asked lightly, "What do you want to do?" The maid saw him clearly, and her face turned pale instantly. "Your Highness, Duan." He didn't make it clear enough. "I dare not." "Then go back and tell concubine Liu. The account of Zuixian building. I will check it myself." The maid dared not say more, and left in a hurry. I looked at his back. "Your Highness is so majestic." Pei Yanzi looked at me. "You don't like it?" "I like someone to hand me a knife. I naturally don't think the knife is too sharp. Besides, I've already said what I had to say and slapped him. He is just responsible for to block the door when they're about to make trouble. This kind of assist. I can do it several times." Shengxiang restaurant will open soon. The first floor sells cheap meals, braised pork rice, chicken soup noodles, scallion pancakes, and soup dumplings, at prices that ordinary people can afford. The second floor is for fine dining. The third floor only accepts 3 reservations per day. I will personally customize the menu. Some people say I'm stupid. I don't make money from the rich and powerful, but I choose to keep the low-priced meals on the first floor. I don't think so. A good cook can cook more than delicacies. Let those on the road have a hot meal, and let the coolies don't count the grains. This is also the chef's ability. Besides, the first floor has more customers. The longer the queue, the more the guests on the second and third floors feel. They feel very proud of reserving a seat. Passion and business can go hand in hand. Money and conscience are not inherently incompatible. On the 7th day of opening, I launched a women's health banquet. The ladies in the capital were initially reserved. Madame Yang Ninghu sat on the 3rd floor. She said gracefully, "I don't care much about food, but I heard that manager Zen knows how to nourish body, so I came to see." I glanced at the oil paper bag hidden in her sleeve. Inside was the 3-juice soup bun I just bought on 1st floor. "Madam, you're right. The decency of adults. Sometimes it means wiping the soup off the corners of the mouth." Before talking about being pure and ascetic, I prepared fish maw chicken soup, yam, osmanthus cake, steamed perch, and a refreshing vegetable. The chicken soup is thick and white but not greasy. The fish maw is soft. Yam cake is delicate and sweet. After Mrs. Hu finished eating, she booked 3 seats for next month. After the news spread, the 3rd floor seats were hard to get. Once, 2 ladies both liked it. The last crab roe soup dumpling. They smiled on the surface. And gentle words. "Sister, you go first. You are younger. Sister, you eat more." They were polite, but both of them grabbed the soup dumpling with chopsticks. Neither one would let go. One of them even pulled out her hairpin. I quickly steamed another cage. If the 2 families in the capital become enemies over a bun, my soup dumpling will be famous in history. But the reputation is a bit greasy. Shengxiang restaurant's business is getting better. Pei Yanzi also came more and more frequently. He said he was auditing accounts. But before each check, he asked what new dishes we had today, and then packs 2 takeaways. One day, Shen, a merchant from Jiangnan, to discuss the supply of soy sauce. He was young and talkative, and brought several kinds of excellent sauces. We talked for half an hour at the table. Pei Yanzi sat not far away. We changed the tea 3 times, and didn't even turn a page. After Shen Gongzi left, he came over. "How about the soy sauce? It's good." "Who?" I looked up at him. "Who?" The supplier is also very knowledgeable. He is straightforward and fair in price. Pei Yanzi nodded expressionlessly. The next day, Hu Zhao told me, the Duan Palace bought the 10-year soy sauce supply in the north of the city. I looked at the jars of soy sauce in the backyard, and fell into deep thought. The prince's mansion is going to pickle it. Hu Zhao whispered, "Miss, does the prince not want you? You see that Mr. Shen again." I suddenly realized. I see. This is the legendary jealousy. Others use their mouth to be jealous. Pei Yanzi buys jealousy for 10 years. This man's emotional expression is very suitable for business, except for occupying warehouses, without major flaws. That night, he came to check the accounts again. I deliberately pushed a plate of pickled cabbage in front of him. Your Highness, try this dish today. It's full of jealousy. Pei Yanzi's chopsticks stopped in midair. I held back my laughter. His ears turned red again. Good. Not only can the soup dumplings burn him, I can do it too. While Henxiang Restaurant's business was booming, the imperial city posted a royal edict. The Northern Rong and the Southern Yu envoys entered the capital. Will attend the palace banquet on Mid-Autumn Festival. The envoy from Nanyu brought a famous chef known as the Master of All Flavors, openly stated that he would compete with the chefs. The emperor decreed, ordered to summon famous chefs to compete. The winner will host the Mid-Autumn National Banquet. Hu Zhao held the imperial edict, and her face turned red with excitement. Girl, do you want to go? I smiled when I saw the notice. Cao Yishao from the imperial kitchen. Concubine Liu. Less than 2 months after I left the palace, they invited me back voluntarily. The fate in this world is sometimes very wonderful, especially for debtors and creditors. Can always meet again at the right time. Go. I put away the imperial edict. I will go, but also bring the pot from Henxiang Restaurant. They said I didn't deserve to stay in the palace, but now I will go back and tell them. It's not that I can't leave the imperial kitchen, but after the imperial kitchen left me, even the pots started to miss me. The selection of folk chefs is held outside the palace. I brought Hu Zhao. When I arrived with 2 chefs from Hengshenglu and General Zhu, more than 20 people had gathered in the yard. Some are good at barbecue, some are good at river fresh food, and someone brought a whole box of bottles and jars. It was said to be a 300-year-old sauce. I stayed away from the box. Not that I dislike it. I'm worried that the sauce is older than my ancestors. It could summon the ghosts of the previous dynasty. Cao Yishao sat next to the main seat, wearing a brand new chef uniform. He sneered when he saw me enter. Choosing a chef in the palace. Not a place for street vendors to join in the fun. I stopped. Cao Chongshan's words are reasonable. He didn't seem to expect me to agree. I continued. So it's really inappropriate for you to sit here. Someone around laughed. Cao Yishao's face darkened. Sharp-tongued. Today's test is about cooking skills, not tongue. That's good. I put the kitchen knife on the table. I'm afraid of the test of tongue. Your mouth smells too bad. Others have no chance to perform. He was so angry that his chest heaved. I'm in a good mood. Morning proper tongue exercise helps to whet the appetite. The first exam topic is homely dishes. Many chefs were stunned. They thought the palace selection must use precious ingredients like bird's nest, bear paw, and deer tendon. The examiner was an old minister with white hair. He said, the state banquet should not only show wealth, but also show the prosperity of the people. Today, I ask you to use ordinary ingredients to cook a dish. Some chose chicken, some chose fish. I took 3 eggs, a handful of scallions and a bowl of leftover rice. Cao Yishao sneered. Sure enough, he came from the streets. Only know how to cook inferior food. I ignored him. Egg fried rice seems simple, but it tests the basic skills. The rice should be separate, and the eggs should wrap every grain of rice. The time to add scallions can't be too early, otherwise the aroma will be gone, only leaving a soft and mushy green flavor. I mixed the egg yolks with some rice first, and stir-fry the egg white, and stir-fry quickly over high heat. I lifted the iron pan in my hand. The golden rice grains rolled in the air like small beads, and fall back into the pot steadily. There were exclamations around. Finally, sprinkle the scallions. The pot gas instantly rose. A golden egg fried rice is ready, without expensive ingredients or fancy plating. But every grain of rice is wrapped in golden egg flavor. It's dry and chewy. The scallion aroma and pot gas are just right. The old minister ate 3 bites. Good, another judge said. The most ordinary ingredients, showing the real skills. Cao Yishao looked a little unhappy. It was his disciple's turn. Presented a dish of 8 treasure chicken. The chicken's belly is stuffed with dried scallops, ham, chestnuts, and mushrooms. It looks gorgeous. The old minister put down his chopsticks after a bite. The flavors of the ingredients conflicted. Ham is salty, chestnuts are sweet, and mushrooms steal the chicken flavor. Too many ingredients, but no focus. I nodded beside. Cooking is like being a person. It's not about piling things on. The more expensive things are, the more capable they are. Some people, even in long good clothes, can't hide their stinky thoughts. The second topic is soup. The third topic is noodles. I made clear chicken soup and a bowl of simple Yonkin noodles. Both ranked first. Finally, Hank Siang Restaurant's Imperial Kitchen and 3 others. And 3 other folk chefs entered the Palace Chef selection. After the written test, I went back to Hank Siang Restaurant to prepare new dishes. In the evening, a middle-aged man in ordinary clothes walked into the store. He had a short beard, and had an extraordinary bearing, and was followed by a fair-skinned and beardless servant. "Shopkeeper, is there any food?" "Yes." I glanced at him. The fabric seemed ordinary, but it's high-quality brocade. His soles are clean. His palms were free of calluses from years of work. He must be a rich man or an official. He sat down at the table. "I heard that your egg fried rice. Better than the Imperial Kitchen's 8-bowl chicken." "Not better than the Imperial Kitchen, but a person who is not good at making 8 treasure chicken." The man smiled. "What's the difference? The Imperial Kitchen is just a place. The pot is not guilty, nor the stove. It's a person's problem if it's not done well." He nodded. Yuli brought a plate of egg fried rice. I made it and served it. He took a bite, and his eyes lit up immediately. He finished a bowl quickly. "Another bowl. You can pay for the first bowl first." The man was stunned, and the attendant coughed. "My master went out in a hurry." "Without money, then you pay." The attendant touched his sleeve, and froze. I crossed my arms. The master and servant didn't bring money to eat, but they're dressed more elegantly than anyone else. "Is this a private visit, or a free meal together?" The man looked outside the door. "When will Pei Yanzi come?" I immediately understood. He dares to call Prince Duan by his name, and such bearing. The answer was already obvious. I sized him up for a moment. "Who are you?" He nodded slightly. I immediately said, "The elder brother of Prince Pei." The man's smile froze. His entourage almost choked on water. There was a sound of footsteps outside the door. Pei Yanzi walked in, and saw the person at the table. He stopped for a moment. "Brother, I'm fine." I guessed half right. It's indeed my brother, but his occupation is a bit noble. The emperor looked at me. "You saw me. Why don't you kneel?" I saluted him politely. "I didn't know your identity just now. Now I know, but I still have to pay first." Pei Yanzi closed his eyes, probably thinking about where to bury my family. Where is the best place to bury my whole family? But the emperor laughed. "Interesting. How much?" 10 wen for egg fried rice, and 20 for a bowl. The emperor took the money from Pei Yanzi, and put it on the table. "Now you can have another bowl." "Okay." I turned around and went into the kitchen. I heard Pei Yanzi's low voice behind me. "Your Majesty went out in disguise. Why didn't you tell me in advance? If I said it, how can I eat her usual meals?" "You can bring money." I forgot. The emperor forgot to bring money for meals. Good. It turns out that the emperor and his neighbor always said, is no different from the uncle who always says next time. After the second bowl of rice was served, the emperor asked about the palace banquet arrangements. "What are you going to cook?" "Shan banquet." "What is the Shan banquet?" "With a large amount of ordinary ingredients from various places, to present the mountains and rivers. Let the envoys see. Our country's wealth is not only in palaces and gold and silver, but also in the rice, flour, vegetables and fruits that people eat." The emperor was silent for a moment. "Okay. I ask your majesty only to say good. Without any reward." Pei Yanzi coughed again. The emperor glanced at him. "You are more straightforward than my ministers. As a business person, oral praise cannot buy rice." The emperor laughed. "If you win, I will reward you heavily." After he left, Pei Yanzi didn't leave immediately. He took out a stack of documents and put them in front of me. Inside were the imperial kitchens, the Xuexian Tower's purchasing records in recent 3 years. A large number of building materials were recorded at 3 times the market price, but the inferior products were sent to the palace. The difference flowed into Xuexian Tower and then transferred to Liu's private warehouse. These evidences you have already found out, I asked. There's still one last link missing. What? The acceptance sheet signed by Cao Yishao, and Liu's confession that Zuishan Lu's accounts were under her control. I flipped through the documents. You give me the evidence. Aren't you afraid I'll mess up? You won't. The prince trusts me so much. I trust your brain. I raise my eyebrows. Just your brain. He looked at me. He paused for a moment. Still trust you? This is too straightforward. I didn't respond immediately. Pei Yanzi's ears turned slightly red and turned to leave. He walked to the door. He stopped again. Don't be stubborn at the palace banquet. I came to my senses. The prince was afraid that I would be in danger, or you would turn the hall upside down. Good. The charm just now was instantly kicked into the stove by him. I lowered my head and continued to read the ledger. Half an hour later, Hu Zhao sent a message from the palace. Cao Yishao volunteered to make baifu soup and transferred a batch of venison and seafood from Xuexian Tower. I closed the ledger. I smelled the familiar stench of rotten scallions. He's going to do something at the state banquet. And this time, he prepared a lot. I smiled. The preparation is good. The grave dug deep, so that it's stable. The Mid-Autumn National Banquet was held in Taiji Hall. Before dawn, I led everyone from Hengxiang restaurant into the imperial kitchen. Cao Yishao saw me with a forced smile. Shopkeeper Zen. Today, we are serving foreign envoys. If there is any mistake, it's not just a matter of paying a few taels of silver on the street. Cao Changshan, don't worry. I put on my apron. I never make mistakes. One should not be too confident. If you say this sentence has a profound moral. He snorted coldly and turned away. I looked at his back, indicating Pepper to follow. Today's Shan banquet has 12 dishes. Beijing mutton, Jiangnan perch, mushrooms from Shu and fresh fruits from Lingnan, all presented in local flavors. The first dish, Chunjiang, is made of chicken soup, is made of tender tofu stewed in chicken soup. The tofu is carved into lotus flowers, which slowly blooms in the soup. The second dish is woi, is made of various vegetables to form a field, with golden millet cake. The main course is shantanjian, is grilled lamb chops, steamed fish, mushroom chicken and rice are layered. There is no deliberate stacking of precious ingredients, but it includes all the local produce in one dish. Halfway through, Hu Zhao came back in a hurry. Miss, Cao Yishao asked someone to send the deer meat to the small warehouse. No one is allowed to touch it. Where's the acceptance form? He signed it himself. Good. The last link is coming. I led people to the small warehouse. 2 eunuchs stood in front of the door. Cao Changshan has ordered that no one is allowed to enter. I smiled and said I wouldn't enter. The 2 just breathed a sigh of relief. I continued. The Imperial Hospital, the Shangshan Hall, and the patrol division to enter together. A moment later, Pei Yanzi arrived with officials. Cao Yishao came after hearing the news. With a bad face. Hengxiang, you alerted the prince without permission. What's your intention? Someone reported that there was a problem with the food. I naturally have to check. Who reported? I pointed to my nose. My nose. Cao Yishao was furious and laughed. Absurd. We personally inspected these stones. How could there be a problem? I immediately asked. Cao Changshan can confirm. Naturally. All ingredients were checked by you. Yes. Hu Zhao immediately presented the acceptance form. There was Cao Yishao's signature and mark on it. I nodded. Since so, open the warehouse. The warehouse door opened. A strong aroma of spices came towards me. I walked to the barrel. I lifted the lid. The surface of the venison looked normal, but the bottom was sticky and gray. There were also several boxes of inferior seafood. Several cans of abalone even had a faint smell of decay. The imperial doctor's face changed after examination. These deer meat has gone bad. If it's made into soup, it would easily cause abdominal pain and vomiting. Cao Yishao immediately said. Someone must have switched them. I looked at him. Cao Changshan just said. You personally checked the ingredients. And your men have been guarding the warehouse. Now there's a problem. But someone swapped them. It's so delicious. He must have framed our family. I laughed. Really? I don't believe. I ordered another batch of sealed barrels to be brought. This is the same batch of ingredients, which were stopped by the patrol at the west gate. The seals on the barrels were intact. The testimony of the deliveryman and the eunuch was there. Pei Yanzi put the confession on the table. They have admitted. Cao Changshan was ordered to use low-priced to replace the state banquet purchases with low quality, and the saved money was given to Zhu Shanlu. Cao Yishao's legs went weak. Your Highness, I'm innocent. Are you innocent? We'll review after the banquet. I'll reseal the ingredients. Now the most important thing is the banquet. Cao Yishao flashed a cruel look in his eyes. Without venison and seafood, how can baifu soup be completed? If a dish is missing from the state banquet, you can't escape responsibility. I looked at him. Who says baifu soup must use venison and seafood? That's what the ancestral system says. The ancestral system is for people and kings to share peace. It's not for you to throw 100 expensive ingredients and boil them into an unidentified pot. I ordered to bring pumpkins, taros, lotus seeds, mushrooms, chicken soup, and fresh river shrimp. Cooked golden soup with pumpkin. Taro adds a dense texture. Mushrooms and chicken soup enhance the flavor. Fresh river shrimp are added at last. A bowl of real baifu soup. It's not about the expensive ingredients, but in the harmony of flavors. The state banquet begins. The chef brought by the envoy from Nanyu presented the 7-colored peacock feast with exquisite carving, with strong seasoning. It's Dashing's turn. My Shan feast was served one by one. The envoys were initially just curious. When they ate Beijing roasted lamb, they were amazed by the balance of spices and meat. When they ate the Jiangnan perch, they were impressed by the fresh taste. Finally, the golden baifu soup was served on the table. The emperor took a bite. What is in this soup? I stood in the hall and replied. They are all common things for the people. Blessings are not expensive, but in having food in all seasons, fire at home, and hot food on the table. The hall was quiet for a moment. The old minister was the first to nod. Well said. The envoy from Nanyu also stood up and saluted. The ingredients are abundant, and cooking focuses on the original flavor. We are convinced by this banquet. The emperor was very happy. He only said it was good lightly. The next moment, I saw him push the empty plate to the eunuch. He whispered to the eunuch, "Is there any ziyang left?" I stood not far away. I heard it clearly. The emperor and the old man next door who grabs food. The main difference is probably the higher hat. During the banquet, Cao Yishao suddenly stepped forward. Your Majesty, Sheng Xiang changed the ancestral baifu soup and slandered me before the state banquet. Please, Your Majesty, investigate. He hasn't given up yet. I admire his vitality. When evidence is thrown in one's face, would be stunned for a while. He is different. He can pull his face out from under the evidence and continue to hit the second time. The emperor said solemnly, the matter just now. We'll review it after the banquet. Cao Yishao immediately said. The deer meat was absolutely fine. If there is a problem, I am willing to drink the soup in public. My eyes lit up. There's such a good thing. I immediately ordered Hu Jiao to bring a bowl of soup. This bowl was not made by me. Prepared by Cao Yishao privately. Sample sealed in baifu soup. I placed the bowl in front of him. Cao Changshan just said he would drink it in public. Cao Yishao's face turned pale instantly. You personally checked and personally cooked it, and said the ingredients were fine. I handed him the spoon. Please. Everyone's eyes were on him. Cao Yishao's fingers trembled, but he didn't dare to take it. I smiled. Why not drink? Could it be that Cao Yishao only wants the emperor and the envoy to eat? but he couldn't afford it. As soon as he said that, the emperor's eyes became completely cold. Cao Yishao fell to his knees. Your Majesty, please spare me. I was just confused for a moment. I took back the spoon. It seems that the greatest effect of this soup is not baifu, but to urge people to tell the truth. At this moment, General Zhu somehow jumped into the hall. Tu was originally chasing a flying insect, but jumped on Cao Yishao's shoulder. Cao Yishao screamed and raised his hand to grab it. General Zhu scratched his sleeve with one claw. Rip, and the sleeve was torn. A small booklet and several banknotes fell to the ground. Hu Zhao picked up the booklet and opened it. It's the private account of Zuishan building. Concubine Liu was originally sitting beside the emperor, and her face changed suddenly. She stood up abruptly. The ledger has nothing to do with me. A strong smell of rotten scallions came to my nose. Wow! The real owner finally spoke. And it smells good for miles. I looked down at the ledger. I smiled. Cao Yishao's gift is more timely than a state banquet. Concubine Liu said the ledger had nothing to do with her. Before I could speak, Pei Yanzi has presented several other ledgers to the emperor. Brother, these are the public accounts of Zuishan Tower, and the records of Liu Manor's purchases, and the palace's purchasing records. Liu Gafei's face turned pale. Prince Wen, I have no grudge against you. Why are you targeting me? Pei Yanzi looked calm. I'm investigating the case, not the person. I nodded in my heart. That's a good statement. The villain always thinks that others expose him as targeting him. They never think about why they are exposed. Maybe in their eyes, they think doing bad things is life, but investigating a case is an offense. The emperor flipped through a few account books. Zigxianlu bought rice at a low price in the palace's name, and then recorded in the imperial kitchen at triple price. Where did the extra money go? Concubine Liu tried to keep calm. I don't know business. Zuishan Lu is run by Fugi. The stench of rotten onions came again. I said, since you don't know business, why did you recognize it at a glance? Recognize that it was the account book of Zuixian Tower. The cover of Taiyi River has the imprint of Zuishan Tower, but the cover has no imprint. I turned the book over and showed it in public. The cover is clean. Only the inner pages have the name of the restaurant. Concubine Liu pursed her lips. I continued, if you haven't seen it, how do you know that it's Zuixian Tower? The hall was silent. This is why I like self-destructive villains. Just give him a word, and he will dig the hole and jump in by himself, and then ask if the soil is enough. Concubine Liu said coldly. It was Cao Yishao who told me. Cao Yishao looked up in horror. Empress. I didn't. Shut up. Liu Gafei shouted angrily. I almost laughed out loud. Well, the master and servant started to bite each other. This scene is like to fish, flapping their tails to escape the chopping board, although they tried hard. But the main purpose is to make the chef happy. The emperor asked, where is He Fugui? The guards outside the hall quickly brought him in. He Fugui had obviously been interrogated. His clothes were disheveled, and his face was gray. When he saw Liu Gafei, he immediately knelt down. Your Majesty, save me. All things were ordered by you. You said the money in the palace was free to take, and asked me to transfer the remaining rice. The remaining rice grains to Zuixian building. The whole hall was in an uproar. Embezzlement of palace purchases is already a felony, and the disaster relief grain is even touching the emperor's bottom line. Concubine Liu shouted sharply, you're lying. He Fugui was anxious. I have your handwritten letter. The letter was presented. Concubine Liu glanced at it and immediately said, the handwriting can be imitated. I asked, if the letter is fake. Of course. The 12 boxes of silver in the backyard. The 12 boxes of silver are also fake. He blurted out that the secret room wasn't in the backyard, but in the east cellar. As he finished speaking, he froze completely. The hall was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. I almost applauded for him. This is not a self-destructing truck. This is a suicide truck convoy. And even brought gongs and drums to clear the way. The emperor angrily threw the ledger on the desk. Liu Shi. Concubine Liu knelt down. Your Majesty. I spoke out of turn. If you don't know where the money is hidden, how to speak out? He opened his mouth and couldn't say a word. Cao Yishao saw that the situation was over, kneeling and begging for mercy. Your Majesty, please spare me. It was all Liu's orders. I just followed orders. Concubine Liu suddenly turned her head. Cao Yishao, didn't you take a lot of money? If your Majesty hadn't forced me, how dare I? You. The master and servant exposed each other in the hall. Which year did you replace how many fake stones? And how many times you divided the remaining money? They said it more clearly than the ledger. I stood by and listened quietly. I can't interrupt at this time. The villain took the initiative to explain his work. We should give him full respect. The emperor issued an order on the spot. Cao Yishao was removed from the position of chef and handed over to the Ministry of Punishment, considering that he didn't directly cause casualties, and was sent to the imperial estate to serve. He Fugui's property was sealed, and the money owed to merchants will be paid first. Suishan restaurant was confiscated and turned it into a cheap canteen. Concubine Liu was stripped of her title, demoted to a talented woman. She was confined in Yangshu Palace. The people involved in the Liu family will be investigated. When Liu Gafei was taken away, stared at me. Hengxiang, do you think you've won against me? You can sleep soundly. I looked at her. Your Majesty, you made two mistakes. First, I never regarded you as a difficult opponent. Second, you are not a concubine anymore. Speak quietly, so as not to scare the cabbage in Yangshu Palace. She was so angry that she staggered and almost fainted on the spot. But the servant caught her. I'm a little regretful. It's not because I didn't make her angry, but because if he fainted, the boiled cabbage tomorrow would be cold, which is not good for digestion. After the incident, the emperor summoned me in the side hall. Hengxiang, you have contributed to the state banquet and assisted in the investigation of the purchasing case. I want to appoint you as the head chef of the imperial kitchen. How? Everyone in the imperial kitchen looked at me. This is a position that many chefs can't get in their lifetime. I shook my head. I don't want. The emperor raised his eyebrows. Why? There are too many rules in the palace. Making a dish requires 3 people's approval. Serving a bowl of soup, it needs to go through 5 people's hands. If I meet another Cao Yishao before the dish is cold, people's hearts will be worried. The old minister coughed, as if he wanted to laugh but didn't dare. I continued. I would like to be a royal chef consultant. I will enter the palace monthly to make menus, train chefs, but without a public office. The consultant only provides culinary and institutional advice, and not participate in palace struggles. The emperor thought for a moment. What else do you want? Establish an open purchasing ledger. All ingredients should be labeled with source, price, and inspector. Separate raw and cooked cutting boards, and spoiled ingredients are destroyed immediately. Chefs are evaluated based on their abilities, and not to rely on seniority. I said more than a dozen conditions in one breath. The emperor nodded after hearing it. Okay. I was in a good mood. It's not a skill to beat Cao Yishao. Make it hard for the imperial kitchen to raise another Cao Yishao is the real end. When leaving the palace, Pei Yanzi was waiting for me outside the palace. Moonlight fell on his dark robe, softening his stern eyebrows and eyes. He held a food box in his hand. What? I asked. Brother gave me pastries. I opened it and took a look. It's osmanthus cake newly made by the imperial kitchen. I took a piece and tasted it. 1 more sugar. The steaming time was half a moment shorter. Pei Yanzi was silent for a moment. You're really hard to please. Wang Yi regretted it. No. He took out a deed from his sleeve. I took it, which stated a commercial street, 3 villages, and most of the properties under Dwin Palace, all as a dowry. Finally, there is an addition. If Hengxiang is not satisfied after marriage, she can divorce at any time. All the properties still belong to Hengxiang. I read it twice. This is a marriage proposal. Yes. He offers all his private property. Yes. Not afraid that I will divorce on the second day. and run away with the shadow. You won't. So confident. You can't bear the general ledger of Henxiang building. I was silent. This man really understands me. Feelings may change. Men may run away. Only the beautiful ledger is worth protecting for a lifetime. Pei Yanzi looked at me. Henxiang, I don't need you to enter the palace as a princess who depends on others. What do you want to do? Be my partner for a lifetime. My heart skipped a beat. This sentence is more pleasant than any vow. I was about to answer. He added, you can also manage the kitchen in the palace. I immediately closed the contract. Deal. Pei Yanzi was stunned. You agreed. Yes. No more thinking. With money, a house, and a kitchen. The partner is good looking. And the ledger is also advancing. I patted him on the shoulder. If we don't do this business, you will be punished. His lips slowly rose. Under the moonlight, his usually cold face suddenly smiled, which was even more dazzling than the lights. I was stunned for a moment, and then warned myself in my heart. Sen Honggyang, wake up. Good looks can't be eaten. But then I thought, he doesn't need to be a meal, he just needs to pay for the meal. Cao Yishao was finally sent to Huangshuang to raise pigs. It is said that on the first day, a black pig chased him for 3 miles. The pig was strong and had a bad temper, and only targeted his butt. The steward of Huangshuang asked me if I wanted to name the pig. I thought about it. Named Cao Shuangshe. When Cao Yishao heard that, he cried his pillow wet that night. It's not that I'm cruel. In life, there must be some account. He Fugui's property was sealed off. Zui Shanlu was turned into a public canteen, and he was fined to ring a gong at the door for a year. He shouted 3 times a day not to eat fake meat. Don't trust Fugui, and operate with integrity. To last long. A few days ago, his voice was very low. I asked Hu Zhao to send a bigger gong, and his voice became louder immediately. Sometimes, a person is not without awareness, but just lacks the right instrument. Liu was confined to Suxin Palace. The emperor didn't mistreat her. Her daily meals are served according to the quota. But as a royal chef consultant, I specially made a menu for a pure and healthy life. Breakfast, white porridge with boiled vegetables. Lunch, steamed tofu with boiled vegetables for lunch. Dinner, vegetable and tofu soup. No oil and salt, and no spices. According to the food delivery workers, whenever Henxiang restaurant delivers food to the Queen Mother, the palace would receive braised meat and soup dumplings. The aroma passed through the Suxin Palace. Liu would stand by the window, and stood still for a long time. I was very pleased after hearing that. It seems that he has learned to reflect. Whether he reflects on his life or his mouth, I don't care. The imperial kitchen was reorganized according to my rules. Food purchases are publicly registered. Separate raw and cooked utensils. Chefs are regularly assessed. Hu Zhao originally wanted to return to the palace. I asked him how much money the imperial kitchen paid. 3 taels. Henxiang building will give you 12 taels. And year-end dividends. Hu Zhao immediately knelt down in front of Henxiang building. I am a servant of the girl, and a ghost in the accountant's room. I corrected him. You are the chief steward, not a ghost. It's fine, as long as I'm fed. Qin was recalled to the palace by the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager learned that he was on my stall, ate the first bowl of braised pork rice. She said she had the ability to recognize talents, and gave her a lot of gold and silver. After 3 days in the palace, Qin climbed over the wall. She sat in the backyard of Henxiang building, while eating chicken soup noodles, while complaining. Everything in the palace is good, but it's not comfortable to eat. The Empress Dowager didn't finish a bite. The Empress Dowager was embarrassed to add a second bowl. I'll add a spoonful of shredded chicken for her. You climbed over the wall. Aren't you afraid of being discovered? The Empress Dowager knows. Why not go through the palace gate? I'm in awe of her climbing over the wall. The nanny's age is just a number, but her skills are her true identity. Henxiang restaurants spread all over the capital in a year, and then expanded north and south along the canal. Everywhere I go, I will keep the local ingredients and flavors. The northern store sells mutton noodles. Jiangnan store sells crab roe soup dumplings. The shoe store offers spicy hot pot. I don't require all branches to be exactly the same. Food should carry the character of the land. The only thing in common is freshness and transparency. The emperor personally wrote the name of Hengxiang restaurant. He originally wrote the best cuisine in the world. I thought it was too ostentatious. I asked him to change it to eat well. The emperor was very dissatisfied. My handwriting, which many people can't get. Your Majesty wrote the best in the world. If someone does better than me in the future, I have to destroy my signboard. Eat well, which is never wrong. He thought about it. He really changed it. So every Hengxiang restaurant hangs 4 big characters. Eat well. My wedding with Pei Yanzi was scheduled for next spring. A month before the wedding, the Ministry of Rights sent a banquet list. Bear paws, deer fetus, bird's nest, shark fin, which filled 3 pages. I returned it after reading it. No, the official was shocked. Princess, this is the regulation for a prince's wedding. It's not like you have to serve half of the mountain. All the animals on the table. I drafted the wedding banquet. Rice, seasonal vegetables, river fresh and poultry to make 100 flavor feast. There are exquisite ones, and homely ones. I even kept a braised pork rice. The official of the Ministry of Rights looked at the menu with a very complicated expression. The princess will eat braised pork rice on her wedding day. I met the prince through it. Pei Yanzi said beside. He's right. The official opened his mouth, probably wanted to ask whether the prince was marrying the princess or a pot. I answered for him. Both. On the wedding day, the whole city was crowded, not just to see the prince, but mainly because the wedding banquet was set up outside, and people could get a bowl of braised pork rice and 2 buns. I sat in the bridal chamber, with a red veil on my head. I waited for a long time, but didn't wait for the groom. I smelled the aroma of soup dumplings first. I lifted the red veil slightly. Pei Yanzi was standing by the table, holding a sugar bun in his hand. Your Highness. His movement stopped. On the wedding night. You're sampling the food. The banquet is over. You're just trying now. Pei Yanzi remained calm, ensuring that there were no problems with the food. I watched him take a bite. The next moment, his ears turned red again. Obviously, he was burned again. 2 years. He can investigate corrupt officials and secret cases and lead troops to quell chaos. But he can't learn to wait for the bun to cool down. I walked over and handed him a reed pipe. Your Highness, you haven't changed your mind. Pei Yanzi looked at the familiar reed pipe. He also smiled. The first time I saw you, you only gave me half a bowl of leftovers. I was happy to have something to eat. The second time I saw you, you laughed at me when I was burned. I laugh now. Later, you asked me to buy a restaurant, check accounts, move rice, and taste the dishes. The prince regretted it. He put down the soup dumpling and put his arm around my waist. No, that's good, but I have something to ask. What? When did you start to like me? I thought about it carefully. Probably when you showed me the account book. When you showed me the partnership contract. Pei Yanzi was silent. It's not because of me. The ledger is also part of me. What about when you proposed? There were many dowries. He looked down at me with a helpless expression. Sen Henggyang. This is the first time he called my full name. I was stunned. The original owner's name is Hengxiang. How do you know? You said it when you were asleep. I remembered. I was developing a new dish that day. I was too tired to sleep on the table. Probably I was talking in my sleep. Pei Yanzi didn't ask where I came from. He just said softly, whether you are Hengxiang or Hengxiangxiang. My heart suddenly softened. This man is usually taciturn, but occasionally says something nice, which was more powerful than Lu. I raised my hand and pinched his face. My lord. Huh? You are perfect for rice. Before he leaned down to kiss me, he pushed the sugar buns on the table aside, for fear of knocking it over. I was very satisfied. He knows to protect the food before kissing his wife. It's the basic quality of a mature man. After marriage, I didn't move into the palace and ignore business. To be exact, I transformed the palace into the headquarters of Hengxiang Tower. Discussed in the front yard. Try dishes in the backyard. The west yard is for accounting. There is a patch of herbs in the backyard. Every time Pei Yanzi returns from court, he could see a group of cooks and accountants coming in and out. Someone asked him if he thought the palace was not quiet enough. He just replied lightly, he likes it.